Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of League Weekly. It is the first week of September 2017, and Kelsey, there we go. She just popped back in for a second, disappeared. But we have now, unfortunately, we weren't able to do last week's episode, which is too bad because we all know this is Reddit's favorite show, especially based off of the last episode that we did where we just shit-talked Reddit a ton, and then they shit-talked us in the comments in return. So it's that kind of like reciprocal relationship.
I was going to say...
Yeah.
What did we really expect?
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I don't blame them. I get it. I don't. Who knows? Anyway.
I blame them for upvoting it, though.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. This show, by the way, is the one right after finals, but we've got Gauntlet coming up, and then there's other stuff happening in other regions of the world. I don't really know. But let me go ahead and introduce you to all of our different cast members here. First off, in a schoolroom somewhere in the Midwest where she's now become a teacher, Kelsey Moser. How's it going, Kelsey?
Principal Kelsey.
I mean,
I am in the Midwest. I'm finally in the U.S., so I am pro NA for this episode by our previous theorem.
Thank God.
So, yes.
And I mean, it does look like a classroom, let's be clear. There's like a plant. There's those kind of blinds. It's great.
Yeah, I don't know. There's like some family photos and stuff. I hope no one minds or, zooms in and finds my location or anything like this. Yeah.
Next up, we got Emily Rand. What's up, Emily?
Hello. I am also in the U.S., but I'm not in L.A. I'm still in Boston.
Yeah.
And I was in Korea before. And I just got over jet lag like this past weekend. So that part was really...
You were also at the finals with me, though I will admit... We didn't see each other too much. Yeah, it's too bad.
I was pretty out of it. I took the train home every day because I was just like going to Korea was totally fine. Didn't have jet lag after the first day. Coming back was absolutely wrecked me. Yeah. It was terrible.
That happens sometimes. Next up, we got Mark Zimmerman, straight from Boston, where he was in. He got a signature from Gordon Hayward on the desk. It's amazing.
I didn't get a signature, I don't think.
Well, there's photographic evidence of the analyst getting a signature from Gordon Hayward. So
I think we were all signing a fans thing together.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you to Mickey3432 for subscribing.
Because, where the press room was, we were, on the super upper level, but I was right in front of the caster desk. And I kept seeing fans, shoving posters over the railing, and you guys were okay, I'll sign this.
Yeah, it was a little more hectic between games than I probably would have liked it to be, but it was also whatever, because it's a big final. So it was cool. Games were decent in terms of entertainment level. I don't think they were decent in terms of quality of play, though.
Yeah, yeah. Actually,
especially by a certain player. Jokes. Okay, let's go.
I actually interviewed Doublelift last night. That video will be going up either today, but the subreddit was kind of crowded, so I was thinking maybe posting it tomorrow. But he also agreed. He thought that TSM played terribly in the finals. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about that. Now, before we talk about that, we do have some other regions we're beholden to talk about. Starting off with Korea and the world teams. Emily, you want to take us through that?
So just a lot of stuff has happened in Korea since we last had this show. The first thing was that Longju Gaming beat SK Telecom in the finals, which was kind of going into it the more unlikely scenario. So that was a really interesting final. I think they attacked SKT really well. And I also think SKT's response was kind of puzzling, especially in the drafting, in Game 2, when they decide to try to meet Longju at split pushing, even though Longju obviously had it down better. That was kind of confusing. Anyway, but yeah, so then the regional gauntlet also happened since the last time we talked, and the third and final team is Samsung, which kills me as a KT Rolster fan. So hopefully, I think I got up past 20 people who were tweeting at me and saying they watched the finals or the regional qualifier because I kept hyping it up. So thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully you did not become a fan of KT for whatever reason. because I'm sorry if I also caused that.
Yeah.
Oh, I was only ever a fan of KT when it was KTA with Kakao. After that, I have not been a fan of them, so thank God.
Yeah. Emily,
I feel
how
like
sad are you?
that was the time when the KT fandom was like the loudest, I would say.
For sure.
Emily, how sad are you?
I'm actually really sad. I really wanted Score to go to Worlds. I think I was really sad when he didn't go last year because everyone kept talking about what a good jungler Peanut was, or like how Bengi was going to come in and save SKT. And I was like, there's like a really good jungler in Korea right now. Like no one's talking about, just because as it turns out, a lot of people really only tune in to other regions for large international competitions. So sometimes when really good players don't make it, people don't know of their existence as much. So I was kind of sad because it was another year, even though he went to Worlds in 2015. It was another year that he will not be attending. And as some of you might know, he's my favorite player. And I just would like to see him get more recognition as a jungler.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I was kind of sad about that. And obviously, it's like if you think about, I guess, the names on that roster, even though, we can argue a lot about why KT failed. I know like a lot of people have different opinions, I guess, of why. It's, in my opinion, a lot of different reasons. But when you're just looking at the names on paper, it's pretty sad that roster is not going. So
what's funny is I was talking to Jap because he's putting together another list of like top 20 players at Worlds or whatever, and then when KT didn't make it, he was like, well, this makes it a lot more fun because there's going to be less Koreans on the list now, because before it was going to be like all Koreans almost, and then you don't need to throw on Mata, Smeb, and all those guys. So
if Cuvée not on there, I will riot.
I think we were talking about it. I think Cuvée and Crown are the most likely to from Samsung.
Okay. Well, Crown is but Cuvée has been having a great split, and no one's been recognizing him for it. And so I hope, because everyone's talking about, Khan is amazing, and, even at the TSM press conference, everyone's like, Khan. They asked Hanser who he wanted to go up against, and he said Khan. And I'm like, but Cuvée is just... So I like, even though I'm sad about KT, I hope that Cuvée does well, because he's a cool kid and he's been playing really well this past split.
Now, one of the things that was interesting, it sounds like you were saying SKT...
Cuvée, okay. His favorite top laners are Marn and Cuvée.
Kelsey.
Sorry, I have really terrible lag.
I know.
Anyway.
It's just going to increase the comments of Kelsey
really
just
terrible.
interrupts everyone.
Kelsey is just interrupting people. It's like I leave China.
Yeah.
China, I interrupt everyone. In the U.S., I interrupt everyone. So European Kelsey is clearly the most communicative and polite.
It's funny. How rude you are is solely based off how good your internet connection is.
Yes, it's a true story. But the point is that I actually thought the huge problem with the SKT Longju thing was just that they got so many opportunities and so many openings with it, and I was really sad. Also, the point I wanted to say was that no one is recognizing Cuvée. I think a lot of European top laners like Cuvée.
I think a lot of people understand that he's
for
probably
example,
second best.
Yeah. Like Alfari says his top two favorite top laners are Marn and Cuvée, for example. A lot of the EU top laners talk about Cuvée, so I don't think he's that underrated, to be honest. He's probably the best overall, most consistent performing player on Samsung, so I will give him that. He's doing well.
I think he is highly rated by players. I think I'd like to see him get a little bit more international fan recognition, I guess. Because again, talking about what happens at international tournaments is that if you get a chance to go, you can really, no one really knew about Marin until 2015 Marin, so.
It feels like there's 1 to 2 Korean players at every position that foreign fans can remember. So it's like Faker and other guy, and then like top for a while was, you know, someday another guy, and whether it was Martin
Smeb
or
and
Smeb.
Faker.
Yeah. So they usually remember a couple people at most, and like Peanut took score spot, and Cuvée was behind Smeb for a while now, so maybe he'll be able to be recognized, but Khan's probably still gonna get most of the hype.
Emily, at the very beginning of this, you were saying it sounded as though SKT didn't look as strong. You were saying it seemed like they weren't playing as well.
Well, I mean, they've had issues. Like, SKT have had a lot of these issues. It's just that, so when they were getting better, right, like, quote unquote, getting better after their loss streak, they had games against, Ever 8 was one, I believe Barbecue Oliver's was the other, that I was looking at, and I was like, these are bottom tier teams, and yet they're still making a lot of the same mistakes, but they're coming out with wins. They also faced KT, and they beat KT. That matchup is cursed, apparently, for KT and Rolster. But then when they swept through the Gauntlet, I was thinking, okay, they still have a lot of the same issues, but they figured out how to play around them a lot better. So my thing wasn't that SKT, like, suddenly, like, they're performing like shit. That's not it. It was more in their response. I don't want to blame everything on drafting, because I don't think it's entirely drafting, but that Game 2 draft was very puzzling to me, not even necessarily because of the champion choices, because it was, like, I think what they wanted to do was clear from that draft, but I don't think it fit what SKT tends to do as a team, if that makes sense. And I also think that, so, like, they substituted Blank for Game 2, and then they put in Huni for Game 3, so it really looked like they were continuously using, like, we're going to substitute in a player and refresh our mindset, and Huni ended up being really good in Game 3, primarily because Blank absolutely destroyed Cuz in the Zach August matchup. So,
Kelsey?
I mean, LS made this tweet like, I really hate it when SKT draft for early game when they're a really big late game team fighting team, and it's like, you know what is really even better, LS? When they draft like all losing lanes and just lose the game that way. Like, that's even better, LS. Like, I really appreciate that as well. I mean, it's like, that's kind of what happened that series. I don't really understand, like, a lot of they would get winning bot matchups sometimes, actually, and then the bot lane would still lose anyway, because for some reason, because Prey and Gorilla are really, really good, and then they couldn't play to this advantage. And then they would have more losing matchups, the fact that they would have, like, I don't know, they had this really weird draft in Game 3 where they had, like, the Twitch, and they had Jace versus Shen.
Game 2.
Oh, yeah, excuse
me. It was
Game
2 that I was like, what is, like,
Game 3 was the game they won.
Yeah, no, the game they won was Huni, Gnar, and then, and then Blank destroyed it, like, absolutely just decimated.
All right, but I think you guys are getting a little too wrapped up in the analysis and the play-by-play and whatever. What I really want to know is, does SKT look more vulnerable this year than last year, and will North America be able to use that to their advantage?
I think the thing about SKT, and I actually wrote an article about this, is that going into Worlds, they always have a lot of vulnerabilities, kind of. I think maybe really obvious vulnerabilities. I think 2015 might be the one exception.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like in 2015 everybody was like, this is just a fun vacation before they win.
But even then, you could kind of see weaknesses to the team. They had, like, a really formulaic style and abusable points to this. And then last year, like, they lost playoffs in semifinal, I think it was, to KT. And it was really obvious that they were having problems. I think this time their problems are different, because in the past they've had a lot of strength in the top lane, even if top lane was disconnected from the team. And now it feels like they have to rely on bot lane to an extent in this meta, and also because their top lane isn't as strong. And their bot lane has never been, like, I'm in a Smash planning phase. It's kind of
Kelsey, we might have to have you. We might have to have you go without the.
Sure, but at the same time, they always adapt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing about SKT is that you can always kind of identify that SKT have some kind of weakness, right? But they still are able to change very rapidly and shore up and fix a lot of those weaknesses. And none of their wins are super definitive, or they haven't been. And maybe you can even say, well, that means that SKT are losing their grip. They're losing their hold, which makes no sense because the meta changes and the meta is completely different. The team's completely different, so it makes zero sense. But I honestly, I hate SKT because, not because they always win.
I hate SKT.
Not because they always win, though, which is the reason that most people hate SKT, but because, they're really difficult to analyze because you're like, oh, they have these weaknesses. Oh, suddenly they don't anymore.
Yeah. No, they are
just really good. But that's the reason I hate SKT, so.
Yeah, I think the trouble in the top lane is the big thing for me, especially with how Untara looked against Khan, and it was not pretty. And then they brought Huni in, which worked out well in Game 3 because, again, the jungle just for Longzhu just absolutely got destroyed. But in Game 4, Huni was on Cho'Gath, which is a signature pick for him. It's like this weird pocket pick he's played since he was on Fnatic. But that obviously takes time to scale, and then you had blank on Maokai, which he wasn't going to be able to help Huni early, so then they just camped top, and it was a train wreck. That game was over at 15 minutes, even though it lasted for another 10, so.
I found this picture of Kelsey to use, but then I didn't like that she was facing angrily the other way, so I was able to flip it. So now it just looks like she's angry at me this entire show. I'm very happy about it. Also,
in the LPL press room. I don't know if people take random pictures of me there sometimes.
While we're distracted, you must be unhappy with what you're seeing on the screen. Something was happening there that was upsetting you. Also, while we're distracted,
probably an LPL game.
I just want to say that Zell went into chat, Josh Kim, and accused Mark Zimmerman of wearing the same shirt for 48 hours in a row. Is this true, Mark?
I'm trying to think. I don't think it's true. No, no, it's not true.
You put it on this morning for the first time.
No, I wore it yesterday when I went to the beach.
Okay.
Because it's a nice, it's big V-neck, nice shirt for that. But I did not
Nobody can
wear
tell
it
that's a V-neck because you hide so low on your webcam. There we go. Yeah, thank you.
No, I got back. I was trying to think when I got back. I got back Monday, and I did not wear this on the plane or anything. It's a fabrication completely. It's at most 24 hours.
Okay. Can you move your webcam so that you're not hidden?
I move around a lot, Travis.
Okay.
Soon my head's gonna be off the top, and you're gonna be like, "Can you bump that up a little bit?"
Okay, so Kelsey hates SKT. That's the takeaway, I think, from the Korean World Team's conversation. I guess maybe one question that we can ask is, overall, is Korea going to be as much of a powerhouse this year at Worlds as they always have been, or is there any evidence to contradict that?
I don't think there's any evidence to contradict that.
Okay.
I was concerned last year because the finals was decided off a random Baron thing, and then the crazy things in the Gauntlet happened, and I was like, oh my god, Korea looks weak potentially, because it didn't appear to be super high level play. But then they came in and shit on everybody again. So that kind of is how this season feels a little bit to me.
Yeah.
But it's still very much the dominant region until otherwise proven.
Okay. Well, we're wildly behind schedule, so let's move forward. I think Kelsey had a topic which was EU teams in 2017 LOL. And then a second we'll be able to talk about EU teams in 2018, which is also LOL. But Kelsey, do you want to discuss EU teams in 2017 LOL? Kelsey.
I just wanted to briefly go over... Yes. I'm here.
Okay, go
Hello?
go for it. Yes, hi.
Yes. I'm talking about the EU teams because we had the EU final and I was in Paris. I don't know. Some people were in Boston. I'm sure that's also a nice city with less baguettes. And I don't know other French things that I didn't see because I was at the venue the entire time. But the point is that there was the final between G2 and Misfits and the third place match between Fnatic and H2K, which I talked a lot more about on the narrative week, so I'm not gonna whatever. The point is that I was wondering like if people feel like after Rift Rivals, EU teams are still complete crap and won't do anything at Worlds.
You're asking us this question.
Yes.
Well, let me answer you right now. Yes, they are. North America's amazing. We got this. Rift Rivals shows it. We're the best. NA Finals proved, look how close it was. There was a crazy match in the fourth game. Everything's great. EU's going to suck. North America's going to win. Glad you could ask. Let's move on to EU format change. No. Emily or Mark, you guys have any thoughts on this?
I think G2 is fine in the same way that NA, like TSM and Immortals are fine. Like, they're not going to smash. They might not even get out of groups necessarily, but that is, like, not that surprising. So, like, they're somewhere probably around getting out of groups and not quite getting out of groups. The other European teams I feel very sketchy about, the same way I feel pretty sketchy about whoever comes out of the Gauntlet for NA. So I think maybe NA has two teams closer to, like, that level of G2, but I wasn't particularly impressed by, like, what I saw of Fnatic.
Yeah, I mean, Fnatic, I don't think are that good, and they're really formulaic. I actually have more faith in Misfits, not just because they're second seed, but because I think they started to understand a lot more about jungle play and how to play with their mid lane and how to use mid lane and jungle advantages like in tandem, which is something that EU teams as a whole have really struggled with, even G2 to an extent. So I actually feel a lot more confident in Misfits than I do in whatever team comes out of the Gauntlet. So I think that we have like maybe 1.5 teams from Europe is kind of my conservative estimation. And the reason why I can go back and say I have faith in G2 again is because at MSI, like G2 did pretty well. And G2 were a pretty high-level team, especially in the best of 5 stage. And when they came back, they took a break and they were struggling really hard. Everyone was like, oh no, the EU competition level is just really high and everything. And then it's like, no, guys. Not all the EU teams suddenly got really good. It's like
completely agree, Kelsey.
So now G2 are on top again, at least in terms of semifinal and final, which is the only games they've played in the past. And yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah. All right. I'm sorry, Emily, did you have any thoughts that you would want to add to that?
No, it's pretty similar. I'm hoping that, like, of the teams that are left, I'd still like to see H2K there in terms of representation of Europe, but I don't know. Kelsey is like a hissing noise, so now she's like, no. I don't know. Like,
I feel like stylistically they're favored against Fnatic and they still lost. The Game 5 Kane thing was a little weird. I was like, the drafts are okay. Like, H2K's draft is riskier. The fact that they picked Kane in Game 5 must be... And he comes in, he, like, counter jungles one Krug's camp and imps, and I'm just like, this is good. This is gonna be a fun game.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well... moving on, EU format change. So,
whoa, Travis, did you see my my little thing in Skype? The topic I wanted to add.
Hang on, I can't move. I can't look at the.
I'll just tell
chat
you
without it messing up the thing. Okay.
I'll just tell you. It says basically the Romain Beauregard, the Unicorns of Love manager, as the EU mascot essentially. I don't know what people thought of this because to me it was super weird. Not just that he was like.
So can you explain this? I actually didn't see it.
Okay, so what happened was they basically, if you guys don't know who the Unicorns of Mascot Love it or whatever the fuck, don't know who
Unicorns
he is.
Of Mascot of Love, yeah.
Yeah, he's a shirtless guy. He runs around a unicorn all the time, and it's kind of funny for a little bit, and then it kind of gets like, all right, dude, you attention whore, calm down. But whatever, it's mostly in good fun. But for finals, not only was he doing it for Unicorns of Love, which is usually what he does, he was actually brought on to be like the EU LCS mascot of the event. And
he's also French.
I was about to say, so it makes sense in some regards where he is French, and he was kind of like the crowd hype up guy, which is, I think, for the most part, fine. He's shirtless, he's body painted, it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But it gets really weird when Mercedes-Benz, I think it was, partnered with the EU LCS finals. It might have been BMW. BMW, yeah. Right. So BMW partners, and they shot a bunch of ads, and the person that they used in the ads was Romain.
Yeah.
The guy, the manager, not a pro player or something like that. There might have been some ones with pros, but I didn't see any. The only ones I saw were with him.
So what? So they're airing these ads during it, and what are the what are the ads? Are they funny? Where he's like in a car?
It's like kind of funny, you know, like someone's driving around some turns in a BMW, and he's like, "Whoa, I'm crazy," or some shit like that. I don't really know, because this was like, as I was prepping for NA, we would see the EU broadcast. But to me, it just seems really weird that they didn't just use him as a hype guy, which I think was fine, but they like. He was the most prominent single figure outside of like the EU casting office that was on broadcast, which is really weird to me, because we keep talking about how they need more personalities, and rather than taking this to like hype up Perks, who was like arguably the best player in the region for years, and like make him the star of the show, they made a manager of a team that wasn't even at the finals kind of the star of the show.
I've kind of addressed this or had conversations about this topic a lot, so I have a short rant. Basically, the first thing to know is that it was in French, so they wanted to use a French person. The French people in the final were Soaz and Hansama. They were both preparing for the games, etc., whatever. I didn't want to do it, and that's kind of the main issue, is that in EU, if your pro player doesn't want to do a promotion for a sponsor, a lot of the teams are like, okay, that's fine, focus on the game, which is great for winning and practicing and everything, but it doesn't work if it's an entertainment industry, and it's another issue with like getting these players to come out and be this type of like entertainment brand, be this type of marketing tool. For example, like Roman, there was an interview with Shocks actually for this event where they go and they do some sort of, I'm really sorry, a French sport of like some sort. I'm really, really sorry. But they play this game, and in the end, Shocks actually up front asks him, he's like, why are you the one who's doing all this promotion stuff for your team? Why are you the one in the Unicorns outfit running around and doing all of these sorts of deals? And he just says the players don't want to, so we're not going to make them. But I mean, this is not really how that works.
No, I mean, it's like for the Super Bowl, there's media days, and like no one wants to do them as a pro player, but like it's too fucking bad. This is like an aspect of your job, and I get that it's a French crowd and they want to grab some French people, and maybe Soaz and Hansama don't want to do some of this stuff, but it's just really weird to me where like they're not pushing pro players, they're pushing a manager.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really weird that, I mean, with sponsorship stuff, like Chinese teams complain all the time. Chinese players are like, yeah, we actually have 2 hours a day blocked off specifically for sponsorship and media obligations. It's really annoying, but I mean, they have to fucking do them. And I don't want it to get to that level. I would like esports to remain like some level of competition, but I understand that this notion of mine is really romantic, because at the end of the day, this is an entertainment industry, and we're all here because people want to have a good time and watch stuff on the screen. So,
yeah.
Well, and it's like, I mean, I think another thing is like, so I feel like in past conversations, we focused more on like the fandom aspect and like viewership numbers and stuff like that. But I think another weird thing is that in advertising in general, you're not necessarily, so like when you do a sponsorship thing or whatever, like you're not always advertising to the fans. You're not advertising to get more fans. Like you need to do it because it opens up other sponsorship opportunities. And I think that's another aspect of it that is really worrying, I guess, when players themselves don't do it, because they should, or like they usually do in League of Legends, have a bigger brand than like a team itself. Although I don't know, that'll that might change with, I think, what we're going to talk about in our next topic and what's happening with Europe. So
yeah, I do wish we had more time to talk about that because I do think it's really interesting. I mean, there's been so much discussion, basically what Kelsey said about branding for players and that kind of thing, and so putting the spotlight on non-players, and especially very troubling when you have a manager admitting that he has to do all these sponsor obligations because his players don't want to. Not a very good sign. And I don't think, I mean, I know that we shit on EU a lot in the show and that this is an EU example, but it's definitely not just limited to Europe. This type of stuff happens elsewhere. And I do think certain teams in North America are a lot better about it, but other teams and players are not as good in North America. So, I don't know. That's disappointing to hear. But thanks for bringing it up, Mark. EU format change. So let's just preface all this. I think, Kelsey, this is your topic, but really quickly.
Emily's, yeah.
Oh, Emily, sorry. For those of you...
I honestly don't want to talk about it because I feel like there are a lot of details that haven't come out yet that completely change the discussion. So I don't really necessarily want to talk about it right now, but I guess we do have to briefly address it. So that's my preface. Here we go. Let's go.
That's fine.
Hey.
That's fine. So
that's for all of us, I think.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Is that and you can see it in Ben Spoont's reply. So for those of you that don't know, ESPN ran a report about how EU LCS is going to supposedly be split into 4 regions. Those regions being cities being based out of Paris, Barcelona, London, and Berlin. And Ben Spoont, who is the owner of the Misfits, replied in the comments and said, "While I can obviously not get into specifics of what are included in Jacob's article, some right, some wrong, lots of critical pieces not discussed, I can emphatically say that the proposed competitive system for the right EU side is a game changer and shake-up, blah, blah, blah." So basically supporting it, but noting that there's a lot of information missing. And so I agree that it is probably not worth speculating too much on it, but I do think it is interesting maybe to discuss some of the challenges. I think that's fair to say. Some of the challenges that might arise from having 4 different regions and things that Riot has to kind of tackle. Because obviously didn't go over well with the majority of the community, and it does feel like it is a strange move to split up a league that is already struggling into a lot of different regions. And there is a question in my mind about whether or not you can really say EU LCS exists anymore after something like this occurs. So, Emily, I'm sorry, this was your topic. I kind of
no, it's all good. I feel like those are all like relevant points. And I think the main thing that I wanted to discuss, not like what's going to happen or any sort of specifics, but I guess like tied to your point, why do we think that they decided to go in this direction? Because like regardless of the specifics, it looks like the EU LCS will be split next year. So I guess I just wanted to talk about like why we think that they might have decided to go in this direction, because it reminds me a lot of so obviously the football. Easy like LOL example is GPL, but one thing that it reminded me of actually was a lot of discussions that we've had about or I guess Travis and I have primarily had these discussions about Overwatch League and their goals in terms of having like city specific or like, you know, country specific teams. So that's what I really wanted to touch upon. Like why do we think, or like let's talk about why we think that they decided to go in this direction specifically for Europe.
Let's pretend we're Riot EU and try and justify this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess sure. but without getting into like we're gonna have so many teams here, and like I don't want to talk about like player base or import rules or anything that. Just like the very basics of like why I think they decided to go in this direction.
I mean, it's football.
Yeah.
That's flat out. That's all it is. It's just football. It's not like I don't think the Overwatch League comparison is that relevant, because when you're talking about Overwatch League, you're talking about a bunch of different cities within one country. Whereas in this example, you're talking about different languages, different cultures, like this sort of divide. I think the challenge that a lot of teams face is how do we market our team to Europe when Europe isn't one culture, isn't one identity, isn't one language. And they run into these problems, especially when their players will get so many more viewers because, let's say, like there's so few there are so few Polish star players that Jankos just like instantly cashes in on the Polish audience speaking Polish on his stream. So he's not going to speak in English. So he's not advertising to this part of the fan base already. So then the question becomes like, can we target more specific audiences for our teams? Can we make this like one of the examples that I suggested for teams to, if you have a German-based team, like market towards a German audience, even if not all of your players are German. And this isn't something that is really played up as a storyline or as a part of the product in any way. They're already starting to sort of fragment and target these sorts of audience with promo videos where like Sven is speaking Danish, reckless speaking, and everything like this. But I think that in general, the idea is that this makes this aspect of the marketing easier because you have a French team based in France. Not everyone is going to be French on the team, but you can still market to the French audience and get French sponsors. And this could theoretically help that aspect of your brand development. Of course, the other thing is that they're trying to attract football organizations, obviously, to invest in their league. Mm-hmm. So trying to mimic the format of the league so it looks like the Football Champions League is, you know, in their minds probably a one-to-one way to go.
Yeah, it also should, in theory, right, fix some stability concerns about getting relegated, because now you're just in your league, and if you fail to qualify for the greater league, you're still relatively better off than in the Challenger Series, hypothetically. I mean, who knows about specifics, but in theory, this should add some stability, which is something that a lot of the EU orgs were looking for.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I still think it'll be like, there was this one season, because Emily brought up GPL, but there was this one season where LMS ran, or no, GPL ran alongside the LNL, and the LNL was like all the Taiwanese teams, but you could also participate in the GPL, and there was also the Taiwanese Esports League, which was really similar before that. So these ran simultaneously, and then teams could participate in either, and it just felt like really weird because you had both of these big leagues, and one was obviously way more hype because you're participating with much more competitive teams, and then the other one like kind of sucks because it's like you and your friends beating up the 3-year-old and stealing his lunch money, and it's just so like it's kind of a weird situation. But yeah,
I'm very sad because whenever we talk about esports business stuff on here, I like to come in and I'm like, you know, I can't contribute whenever people talk about Korea or like, you know, pick and ban or whatever, but I'm like, this is my chance to show. And then Kelsey just took all the words right out of my mouth. That's all the right.
I mean,
stuff,
I've been talking about this forever. So.
Yeah. The less Travis, the better, though. So you know, I'm sure all the viewers are like very happy about this.
Yeah. Either, I mean, I think just to sort of echo what you say, it is. Look, there's a reason why they were able to get the BMW stuff going in Paris. I'm sure that, and they ran French-style ads. I'm sure that came from a BMW Paris budget, not like a BMW global budget. And we've said this before, but again, like a lot of people that watch the show or generally just don't think about the stuff, especially one of the reasons why it's been hard, I think, for Europe to compete with North America is that you have much like well, now everybody's VC, so it doesn't matter as much. But generally speaking, you have sponsorship budgets that are much smaller because they're all regionalized into these different countries instead of someplace like North America. And so I do think that as the business stuff of this evolved, you know, you look at all the other major regions right now. Korea, just Korea. China, just China. North America, yeah, you got Canada, but mostly America. And, you know, Europe, which is this, you know, now you got Brexit, by the way. It's getting even more fractured as time goes on. It's getting harder and harder, I think, for sort of this, like, loose conglomeration that's somewhat respected and recognized by certain countries and not for others, and there's weird visa issues and all that stuff to keep up. Emily, you were going to say something.
I mean, yeah, we'll see if this helps, but I think it's just generally like short run, H2K have talked about losses that presenting this plan to potential sponsors have entailed and stuff like this. So I think short run, it will make it probably harder to get sponsors, but long run, we'll see.
This is a short-term hit. Like, you're going to split up all your stuff. You're betting on the idea that this, like, you are probably looking at the system right now and saying, like, okay, we'll probably keep seeing viewership decreases. We'll probably keep seeing players go to North America, et cetera, et cetera. We're just going to bleed out this way. So you make this big bet that by doing this, you'll take a hurt next year in 2018, but you're better setting yourself up for a better 2019 and 2020, and so that this is how it's going to go. But of course, like, it's way too easy to meme about, like, hey, our one league isn't working well, so let's make 4 of them or something. I get why those jokes are hilarious, and I will probably continue to make them, but I do think there's a bigger strategy here. Emily, any thoughts? You were going to add something earlier.
Oh, no, that's all I was going to talk about was, like, the fact that the main concern that I would have is in terms of marketing yourself to potential sponsors and how that's going to go, especially when, like, European teams were already kind of struggling with that. And obviously, Kelsey brought up the point that it, like, theoretically should be maybe a bit easier to be able to market to, like, a more specific homogeneous audience, but that I think that would be, like, my major concern.
Yeah. I do think it's like really.
Well, we're losing you, Kelsey. Sorry, I'm just gonna start talking over you. Bear Tank in Twitch chat says.
No, I think it's funny. Yeah, fine.
That's good. Bear Tank in Twitch chat says, "Why would any sponsor?"
I just think it's like there are so many Danish players, right? And people bring up this criticism a lot, and there's going to be no Danish league.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a dumb criticism because the Denmark viewer base, despite how much pro players they contribute, is really small. So there's not really, like, necessarily a point of marketing to them. So it's just, like, super awkward that you have all these Danish pro players that are just, like, hanging out, like. How do we market our shit? I don't know.
So I know jack shit about European football, but don't. I assume that you have Paris football teams that have players from other countries on it.
Yeah.
That's not
like all the football teams have players from different countries.
For example, Splice is all Danish, and it's just like, yeah, we have a corner on the Danish market.
Yeah.
Yay.
Bear Tank in Twitch chat says, why would any sponsor pay for the 5th, 6th best team in a country when the viewership is a fraction of what it is now? First off, I don't know if they'll pay for the 5th or 6th best team in the country. That's probably a situation where that team is trying to get better so that they can make money, because maybe you can get money for the top 4. But it is worth noting that, like, if I run a Parisian company, or rather I'm in charge of the market for France, or the marketing for a company in France, I'm much more willing to spend that money on a team that lives in Paris and can do activations in Paris or in France, and will be able to do that stuff in French, or like they have like a French viewing base, than I am to spend on some random team that's in Germany or whatever. So I think that answers that question.
Like, I mean, this is only tangentially relevant, but I would like to bring up the point that success is not equal to marketing or fan base.
Yeah.
So, like, if we're talking about sponsorships, obviously it's a lot better to be successful. It's a lot easier to sell yourself if you're successful. But there are plenty of teams that we've seen that have the marketing thing down, and they haven't been at all successful this year. I'm thinking of Team Liquid specifically, but like, I mean, they're a good example because I feel like they still have a really dedicated fan base. I feel like they still know how to sell themselves, but in terms of like actual in-game success, they haven't had it. So
I mean, I guess
I just wanted to point out that it's not always a one-to-one comparison.
The better example is CLG back in the day, whenever they were like always riding relegation and just letting their fans down and all that stuff. Like, that was a team that was failing, and yet at the time they were still the second most popular team in the league. So
even Echo Fox, they've never been good, but they have Froggen, they have Rick Fox. They try and market themselves well.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
Let's.
you make players do sponsorship things. That would be really helpful, you know?
Yeah,
Full circle. Anyway, moving on.
Crazy idea.
Rookie didn't make Worlds and others. Emily, you want to run us through this really quickly?
This is Kelsey's topic.
Damn it! You
I mean,
guys
I
always
can talk
mix it
about
up.
but
It's China.
I know.
it
I mean,
says
you
it
put
right
it.
in
You
the
put
document.
and other.
I just read it off of the
but
topic
I'm really
list.
just going to talk about Rookie, honestly. Yeah, I'm probably just going to talk about Rookie. The point, because the thing is that everyone is whining all the time when IG loses. Every time I go to a thread where IG loses a series, it's always like, can someone Rookie a good team? When is Rookie going back to Korea? IG suck. Oh my god.
Apparently, all these fans have bad
Yes,
internet
the
connections when
Rookie
they're
had
making
every
these
second.
criticisms.
It's like, this split,
Oh.
They do.
for the first time in a while, Rookie had a good team. Rookie had a good team. It's probably going to be a lot better next split as well. If he went back to Korea, he'd end up on a team like KT with Def, Paw, and fucking Smeb and Score and not make Worlds. So you'd still be complaining about Rookie not making fucking Worlds. It's like,
because he
KT
still doesn't
only
have a
had
good
Rookie.
team.
If KT only had Rookie, it would be way different, and everything else is like, can we save Rookie? We save KT.
I'm so sick of this
I'm
narrative.
really tired of this story
I'm so sick
because
of it.
Rookie is like the biggest. I don't know. He's really I don't know. I can't even believe that Rookie is this happy in China because I feel like he has to be playing it up to such a stupidly high extent just because he knows he has like a really good deal going, and he's like one of the only Korean streamers that still gets paid a lot because of the Chinese fan base that he has and because he's worked so hard to work the language and everything else. But he's like, as soon as they lose the series, he makes a post on Weibo that's like EDG, RNG, WE, Jiao, make it to Beijing. And that's just like, yeah. And then he's just like always, I don't know, like this guy.
There was another post where like it's him like as he was walking off stage and he's like very visibly upset and crying, and then that was like his moment. Like he took that moment to be sad, and then apparently immediately he was like confronting his not confronting, oh my god, comforting, two completely different things, comforting his younger teammates, and saying like, it's okay, like we'll be better next year, that kind of thing, like it's all right that we didn't make it. So
a lot of the problems with IG are Rookie based problems as well. Like they're super random as a team. They're super no holds barred, and you have to think that he's like one of the mentor figures on the team, and this is the way he's played forever. This is the way he's teaching them to play. So I don't know, it just seems like really unfair to just dismiss IG and the accomplishments they made this split and say, can Rookie please go back to Korea, then he can go to Worlds, when clearly that is not the case.
Yeah, I think the main thing that bothers me about this narrative is the fact that people think that because Rookie isn't in Korea, he must be miserable, and then also that that like there's this with Rookie specifically, there's this very interesting romantic attachment that people have to him, where in their eyes he's still this like up and coming phenomenal mid laner that was marketed, again, like we've had a lot of them, but again, he was marketed as like the next Faker, or like the player that could go up against Faker, and he's super talented, and he's on this super talented team, KT Arrows, that managed to get it together and beat Samsung Blue in the summer final, and it was amazing. And Rookie's like only going up from here, and then he goes to China, and people are like, oh, it's such a shame that he is like stuck in China, or it's like it's such a shame that he decided to stay there. And it's like, if he's like, so not only have IG just improved as a team in general, but like if Rookie is happy, I just don't like the idea that the community continuously imposes this romantic, idealized version of him that is going to like come back and suddenly enter these like crazy 1v1 duels with Faker, and it's going to be amazing. And like, no, that's not actually what would happen anyway. He wouldn't be guaranteed a shot at Worlds, like we said, because like there's a lot to unpack actually from the lack of success that the KT super team had. just in general, and like what it means for the strength of Korea and what makes a successful League of Legends team in general. I feel like there's actually a lot to unpack there that hasn't been yet. But aside from that, I feel like pinning all these things on one player, especially when you're just basing it on this one split that he had with KT Arrows, is really sad.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my rant about it.
Very good. Well, I don't know if I can call this a sponsor break, but I do want to take a little moment here to promote something. Listen, Emily, Kelsey, Mark, we travel all over the world, all right? We're often sitting in our chairs here doing these shows. We're sitting in stadiums filled with fans on maybe not the most comfortable stadium seats. We're on planes for, I don't know, sometimes 10, 11 hours. And wouldn't it be nice if you had something really comfortable that you're wearing while you're doing that?
Oh, God.
Congratulations, everyone. I've got a great deal for you. You check out MeUndies.com/Travis Gafford. You get 20% off your first order. It helps out the show.
Travis Gafford has an underwear sponsorship.
It helps out me. It's not, well, I don't know if it's officially sponsorship, but I do have this link now. And
Wait, do I get a cut of this?
Amazing design.
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't Mark your model? Like, what's going on here?
Well, Mark,
Wait, how about all of us, huh?
once we do the shoot.
Where's our cuts of this?
It's great. It's great stuff. Really, really fashionable, and it is so comfortable. I wear this stuff. Esports people wear this stuff. Every time an esports person gets some of their stuff, they try it. It's great.
I don't know what planet you're living on where you think showing people your underwear will get people to buy things, but I mean,
it's great.
I have a pair as well, Travis.
Yeah, see?
I got sent these back in the day.
And aren't they? I think they're really cool.
Am I on screen yet? Did you change the
Oh,
scene
no,
over
hang
back?
on. Good point.
You got these like skull thingies on it. I don't know what the fuck is happening.
They're very fashionable.
A bunch of people having a party.
Yeah.
Had
I'm
them for
not
a
gonna
while.
show my underwear, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, again, there's
Just throwing
diamonds.
that out
Look,
there.
now I've got diamonds. MeUndies are amazing, fantastic, comfortable. I really like them. Again, I don't have a job. So, MeUndies.com/Travis Gafford, 20% off, and maybe some of that money, depending on how many people actually use the link, which, let's be honest, not very many people watch this show, will make its way into the pockets of Mark, Emily, and Kelsey. But again, highly recommend it. It's great.
If you want to support us, you can do that another way.
Yeah. There's also
Or direct.
yeah. You can also go to by the way, it's not active yet, right? Twitch is supposed to run this promotion where you can sub to a channel for the first time for half off.
Yeah, September hasn't started 6 days in, so it's very confusing because everyone is promoting it.
Yeah, well, it was supposed to go live today, but then there was a tweet that said that it was delayed or something. It's still happening, so I don't know. But also, if your Amazon Prime or Twitch Prime sub thing reset, you can do so on this show or on this channel. Anyway, back to things as they were. We've got CLG fan mess. This is my topic. I brought it up. So, Emily, Kelsey, Mark, did you guys see that CLG announced like a fan fest thing happening?
No idea what you're talking about.
Okay.
No.
So I will link to the tweet. And I don't think it made Reddit, but they've been promoting it a little bit. Oop, where are we? So it's in, thank you, Fruity Potato, for the sub. So I linked it in the Twitch chat, and I don't want to link. I'll link it in the Twitter message so you guys can see it. But so they have announced Clg Fan Fest, which is an event happening in New York City at Madison Square Garden. Of course, this makes sense because the team just got acquired by Madison Square Garden. And under normal circumstances, I am all about teams meeting their fans and doing this kind of cool outreach. My issue with it, and I'm ready to be prepared to be told by you guys that I'm an idiot for thinking this, or it's not that big of a deal, or it shouldn't even be a topic on the show, but nobody's brought this up yet. September 12th is when it's happening. So it's happening in basically a week, less than a week from today. And they just announced it yesterday, by the way. So they gave it basically 1 week's notice. Tickets are free. Just a way for them to meet their fans. But wait a minute. Isn't something interesting happening? Don't we have Gauntlet this weekend? And if CLG qualifies through that, doesn't that mean they have to go to Worlds? And shouldn't they be spending that time like going to Korea and boot camping and practicing instead of going to New York? Isn't there like a dramatically better time for them to do this, either after Worlds or like during the break in the seasons or any of these times?
So
my understanding. Okay, go ahead, Emily.
Oh no, I was gonna say I have a thing coming out on C9 probably like tomorrow or Friday. But it includes an interview with Jack that I had, where he talked about the time frame if you are a Gauntlet team, and it actually makes it a lot more difficult to boot camp in Korea and China. That was something that they were still figuring out. So I'm not going to say like, you know, they are going to go or they're definitely not going to go. But I'm saying that if they didn't know exactly like when to, the time frame in terms of like, if it was, since it's like super short because of Gauntlet, I wouldn't be surprised if they might have had trouble scheduling a Korean boot camp.
Well, it's terrible then because I don't know how they're going to prepare for Worlds because, well, in terms of practicing at least, because TSM has said they're going. I assume Immortals is going as well, though I guess I haven't officially heard that.
The problem is this third seed also has to play in play-in.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's what Emily's getting at, is that just like
the time frame is just
Gauntlet
really
and there.
short.
You don't have the time.
So do you just not have any way to get ready for play-in then?
So the fact that TSM and Immortals are going, they have much more time because play-in starts
Play-in starts the 23rd.
Yeah.
So like you're talking about like going to Korea, going to Korea, staying there for like what, a week? or so?
2 weeks.
But then you
because then you have to go to China. Like you have to get set up.
So you could win on Sunday. You could fly on the 11th, and then you have to fly across the ocean anyway. So you don't even need to count that. And then if it starts on the 23rd, you also have to
apply for visas. You have to do.
Yeah, like
well, the visas have already been started.
So like travel, hotel, and visas, whatever. But then also like the scheduling of scrims is going to be, like it's in my opinion, it's a scheduling thing because you have to apply in advance to like schedule teams or like already have a scrim schedule set up. And if you don't know you're going, that makes it a lot more difficult.
But to Travis's point, C9 does this every Gauntlet run, is they already buy all their tickets and stuff,
this is the first time there's plans, right?
Right, yeah, but it's the same idea, is that you knew plans were coming. If they wanted to fly out Sunday night if they win, they could do that. So to Travis's point, I understand what he's saying.
Part of the issue is that there's like this thing that the Korean teams are doing this year that some Western teams have been invited to that I think starts before a lot of the play-in teams can feasibly go. So they might just like also weigh this in and say that, okay, these teams are joining this program, and then the Korean teams are going to play in this play scrims with the teams in the program. And everyone's playing with the teams in the program. It's kind of hard to get scrims unless it's against third seed teams, which we have to play against in the play-in, and then it's like.
So if the story now is changing from, I thought it was bad whenever I thought they were just going to get to, first off, I forgot that play-ins were so soon. Like I knew that they were before, like late September, but I guess the 23rd is even earlier than I was expecting.
Yeah, they start the 23rd.
On one hand, in my mind, that makes it even worse that these guys aren't able to go to Korea and get adjusted to the time zone and boot camp and all that kind of stuff. If the narrative is changing to, well, they're just not going to do any scrim or practice beforehand, that to me is dramatically worse. And I don't know, maybe that's not, they're going to do this fan fest thing because they feel like there's no value in boot camping or whatever, but that sounds really bad.
Well, they can still just go to China to boot camp too, so you only have to do one journey, right?
Well, but Emily was saying you'd have to boot camp third
string
teams
and start scrimming teams in China.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's teams in China.
Fan Fest thing on the 12th, and then like, okay, you're maybe 1 or 2 days late. So does this hurt you?
Yeah, you give them a day or two break. Monday, Tuesday, they chill. They go to New York, and then they fly again. I don't know. I agree. It's not like the best timing to do it.
Because now they're flying on the 13th, and you've flown them from LA to New York, from New York back to, you're probably going to have a layover in LA or San Francisco. Then you're going to go, like, why do this then? Why not do it? Why not? Here's what I think they could have and should have done, assuming that the venue was available to them. Schedule it during World Finals and say, listen, we hope we make it to the finals, and if we do, you'll be able to be at Clg Fan Fest watching our team there. If, unfortunately, we don't make it, watch the finals with CLG. Hooray! Like, isn't that infinitely better, or doing it anytime after? Like, I don't see the need for this at this time, and it's just kind of worrying to me because MSG just acquired them, and this is like the first visible thing that they're doing is like right after Gauntlet taking them to this event. Now, maybe CLG won't qualify and it'll be fine, but I don't know. It just feels weird.
They've just accepted that they're going to lose, I guess.
I mean, to some extent, that does like. I almost it feels it. You could someone could argue that it looks that way. I'm not saying.
Can we vote? Can we vote to move on?
Yeah, that's fine.
Because I really don't think this is that big of a deal. It's like a couple days inefficiency at worst. And I don't think it's right, but like.
Okay, minor region team rundown. Now we get to hear about minor regions instead. Mark, are you happy?
No, I'm trying to get through this shit, dude. I'm trying to like we're halfway down. It's 3:15. You were gonna go talk another 10 minutes about your CLG boner? Come on.
I just wanted to say that since we last talked, a lot of other teams have qualified from minor regions, including Direwolves, so Australian, Gambit from CIS, and Team 1 from Brazil, which is an interesting. They have a really interesting story, so hopefully I will get to write about them. But yeah, so I just wanted to bring up that the entire play-in is filled except for the third seed EU and NA teams.
I'm really excited about Gambit. That's actually really fun.
Is it only Edwards still, or is
Diamond
anyone else?
Diamond.
Diamond's on it. Okay, cool. That's actually sick.
Yeah, I think it'll be cool. It'll help give the play-in like a little bit of extra boost in terms of hype.
I mean, I personally find the play-in hype already. Just like the third seed from a bunch of major regions, and then as well as like some recognizable talent from the play-in stage is just super cool to me.
Yeah.
Or from
Brazil sending a brand new team that's essentially a team of rookies. This should be interesting.
All right, now we've got Hanser LOL. There's so many LOLs this week.
So I started copying Emily because she was above me as we were filling these out. So I just started adding lol to the end of everything.
Yeah.
And one of them isn't even a real topic.
Okay.
I just wanted to put it down there so people can see it coming, and then when we skip over it, they're going to be really mad.
I mean, this is my topic.
This one's yours, though.
Yeah, Hanser lol. Ha. The entire controversy with Thorin on Twitter and then Hanser saying, I proved by winning that I'm the best. Like, I think that entire thing is just, he kind of fueled his own flame, I guess. No pun intended. No, but just like this idea, again, that we brought up before is it's like, if your team wins, that doesn't prove that you're the best player, but a lot of people have trouble telling the difference, whereas I feel like it's kind of clear. Like when you play Gnar and you get destroyed, it's a little unfortunate to say.
I don't know. I feel like on Hanser's defense, like someone's like, oh man, you suck, and you're just like, well, I won, so go fuck yourself, because you don't want to like use the brain power to be like, well, let me look up all my stats in comparison to his, and let's check my head-to-head with him and formulate a real argument. Like, you're a pro player, you have better stuff to do. So if someone asks you, like, do you think you're better than him? You're kind of like, I got the W, I don't care. So in Monster's defense, I don't think he's like passionately defending himself. He's kind of like just trying to move on from it.
Sure.
I mean, one thing that happens all the time, and I don't agree with it because I don't always think that a winning player means that you're best. And I think it's the job of people like us to point out that when we, disagree with that fact. But in Korea, for the most famous example that I can think of is when someone asked Gorilla if Wolf was the best support, because a lot of people were saying that Gorilla was still a better support.
I actually was remembering this, yeah.
And Gorilla was like, well, he won, so yeah, of course he's the best support. And like, so if you ask any player in Korea, at least, that's pretty much what they will usually say, is that they'll be like, well, like, I just narrowly avoided relegations on Longzhu in spring, and he won the finals, so obviously he's better. And while it's not a one-to-one translation, I do feel like a lot of players themselves will default to that just because it's easier.
Yeah, I think that's mostly my take on it too. Like,
Yeah.
do I think Honster's better than Flame? Maybe not. I think Flame looked better than him in some games and worse than others. But at the very least, Honster is just like, well, I just won, and now I got to go boot camp, and I'm going to go take some time with my girlfriend and all this stuff, and I'm not going to go formulate an argument that's going to sway people's minds. If you don't think I'm the best, whatever.
Yeah. I don't know. I just find the whole thing funny. Everybody wants to talk about Thorn and Hanser. The bigger question is Mark and Biofrost. Mark, did you see in the press conference that I asked him?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
So in the press conference, I said, Bio, you played phenomenally in this series, especially in the second half of that fourth game, helping your team come back. You have had a heated war of words with LCS analyst Mark Zimmerman. Do you feel as though your play in this series has finally, allowed, all that stuff to be put down? And bless his heart, like his team's laughing, and bless his heart, Vincent just answers like in a very
is laughing, by the way.
Vincent, yes.
Everyone else in the press is
Everyone else in the press room didn't get the joke.
I'm just like,
Emily and I are and Vincent, bless his heart, just answers in the most serious way. He's just like, well, I think that Mark has he had a lot of concerns about my ability to play certain champions in this series. I pulled out Alistar, and I had these different things, and at certain points in time, my play was not as good as other. It's a great answer. You should go take a look at it.
Yeah,
but
I can already see him saying it.
At points, like, I think I did have champion pool issues, so I kind of agree. Like, it's really cute.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I'm surprised nobody brought it up in the press conference Reddit thread. But yeah, I really want to create like a compilation video now that's just like the Mark and Biofrost.
Yeah, you gotta go full CNN 60 minutes. You have both of us like my argument, his argument, my argument, his argument. Like
the moral is the Canadian always loses.
Yeah.
So
the moral is no one actually cared, but like fans.
Yeah.
I don't even know if fans care. I think they were just like playing.
They did actually. No, in the last League Weekly episode or something. Or no, it was the interview I did with
it was the interview. So we can, if you don't mind, Travis, we can just skip to like the Let's Talk TSM fans, because this was just gonna be a joke topic that I really don't care about.
Sure.
But the one point that I do find very funny in this is just like there's a couple, like I started seeing the reoccurring names as I started. So Travis keeps bringing this shit up, and like I talked about it a month ago, and like he keeps bringing it up, and fans keep talking to me about it. It's so funny because like I haven't talked about it in forever, and no one even remembers my point, which was like he shouldn't be playing Lulu and Nami, which surprise, surprise, he starts playing Rakan and Alistar and looks great. But anyways, people started flaming me over and over. Every time Travis brought it up, people would flame it. I think it's funny. I think Biofrost doesn't give a shit. But people started being like, Mark just makes shit up about TSM for views.
Yeah.
And I was like,
this was like the most upvoted conversation in the Biofrost interview thread. Like, it was this huge conversation about like how Mark, and then like somebody comments and it's like, Mark has actually gone on record saying that this is how he does it, and it feels like he's supposed to just start stuff for no reason. And other people are like, yeah, that's right, that's right.
Yeah, it's like on record I said I will play devil's advocate.
I mean, yeah, it's not that surprising that I guess like fans are paying less attention to specific details. Like I've had instances where people are arguing about me and people who I never actually did, and then people who are attacking me are accusing me of doing shit that I never did, and it's like it's kind of a really entertaining situation when you think about it. But it's like, yeah, I mean, I don't care that much, but it's just really funny that fans like go back and forth like this about topics like that. Where did that come from? Like the fact that you criticized his champion pool and suddenly it's like, I don't know. It's really interesting that people will just say the first thing that comes to their mind and be like, yeah, this actually happened. And it's the conviction with what they say it, that they convince other people on the internet. It's great. I love it, actually.
I don't care that people get stuff wrong. Usually if I see it, I'll go in and try and correct it. It's just like there's this one guy with a massive hate boner, and like he started deleting his comments if he gets downvoted. He keeps trying to like spur people to hate me. It's hilarious. Yeah. I don't really care. It's just like super funny, and it's just with the Thorin thing. I saw the same argument where like he just hates on TSM fans for money, and it's just comical because I got that argument thrown against me like a couple days ago or a week ago, and it's just like I don't even have a single TSM video on my YouTube. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Always trying to stir stuff for drama.
Yeah, I will say that's the only fan base I've seen use this argument, which is just like, you just talk shit on us because we're so fucking cool.
Yeah. All right, let's skip back to NA Gauntlet, LOL.
Mm-hmm.
This is you, right, Mark?
Yeah, so this is just quick thoughts on two things. One, who do you think makes it out of the Gauntlet? Because I actually think it's a really close race just based off what we saw. Like CLG, when they're playing well, decent, but they are probably pretty erratic with just like how well will Omar God play, as well as like will Afro underperform. Dignitas seems to be trending downwards pretty heavily. Some grumblings behind the scene, not so great. And then C9 we haven't seen for a long time, and they didn't look good when we last saw them. So I think it's really close between the Gauntlet and then that kind of
because everyone sucks apparently.
Well, everyone has a reason to you have a reason to doubt every single team is
yeah. Okay, that's fair.
Obviously, it's so, then.
It's just so funny, like. But all right, guys, we got the Gauntlet coming on. Who do we have? We have this team with internal drama. We've got this team who hasn't played in forever and who sucks. We got this team. That's just pretty good.
Yeah. So then the question that's naturally going to follow up from that is, how do you guys feel about NA going into Worlds? Because we kind of talked about Korea, and it's a similar question for you.
Well, so the first thing is we got Gauntlet, right?
Yeah. So just who do you think's kind of going to get out quickly?
I think it comes down to. I feel like it comes down to CLG, C9, and it's super hard. I mean, CLG looked pretty on top. I guess I would give it to CLG because I always feel like I remember whenever I used to get buys in Worlds or whatever, and it never seemed to help actually. And so I feel like the team that has been playing a lot recently, even on stage and all that kind of thing, I'm sure C9's been scrimming, but I feel like that team is generally the one that's going to come in looking stronger.
I kind of agree with that. I think it's probably between C9 and CLG. We just haven't seen C9 in so long.
Yeah. Which is why it's so sad that CLG then is going to fuck off to New York for a fit. No, I'm just kidding. But yes.
I was actually going to say I'm giving the edge to C9, and the only reason is because I think they're a more consistent team. So like where I think CLG can easily beat them if they're on form, there's no guarantee that they're going to be on form, and that worries me. And traditionally, I usually go with the team I find to be more consistent. So
yeah.
It could be either. That's just why I'd give the nod to C9.
That would work for you. You know what? Let's make this interesting, and I will just say Dignitas because no one has said Dignitas, and it'll
you just say shit to stir.
I just say shit to stir stuff up. No, I mean I think Dignitas have definite advantages that they can use in this series if they just play strong lanes. Omar God seems to have like a few champions that he plays well on, just period. So I don't know. I like the fact that he had this insane third place match series. To me, doesn't seem like it's super repeatable. So.
Tahirua.
Duskblade Jarvan again.
Or Tara in Twitch chat says, not even talking about Fly, lol. So it is a fair question. Is there any chance that FlyQuest goes to Worlds?
I don't think so. I think the Gauntlet this time is like not that easy. Whereas like some seasons, like a bunch of teams feel like they're on the downward trend. Like a lot of people take the Dignitas path where it's like, ugh. But C9 and CLG both feel like relatively formidable.
Okay.
I mean, the thing for me is that even before CLG and Dignitas had their third place match, it's not like FlyQuest did well against these teams during the regular season, and that's also a big issue for me. It's like they haven't necessarily proven, even in the regular season when everyone was playing each other regularly, that they could beat these teams consistently, so that doesn't make a convincing argument for them to come into the Gauntlet and suddenly be able to beat them.
And it's not like with Cloud9 in 2015, right, where they had these like nail biter final regular season series and they looked like, you know, they could actually make it or do something, which no one still predicted them effectively, but they at least like had tools that they were showing off in the final weeks of LCS, and I feel like that's not the case with this Splits FlyQuest. So
yeah.
So then, how do you guys feel about North America just generally at Worlds? Because you heard Travis talk about Doublelift thought the level of play in the finals was kind of low. I've talked to a couple other people; they all felt the same kind of way. So is this just like hopefully the finals were just some stage jitters, or do you think like TSM looks worse than they did last Worlds, and Immortals doesn't look as good as C9 and all that stuff?
I think the
it was
Gauntlet
just like,
team.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, go.
It felt like there was just so much greed in the final, you know? Like, It was just IMT constantly greeting for shit over and over again. Like, all the problems that I had criticized IMT for in the past when they had Dardoch, it seemed like they were suddenly back. Like, botlane wasn't communicating with the rest of the map. Oh, we're gonna engage here. But it's, so to me, like, if you base it on the you can't just base it on the final, right? So I don't know. I think like the top two teams will be okay, but I need to VOD review some other stuff before I make a definitive comment. But based on the final, if you're basing it only on the final, which is retarded, then yeah, it looks terrible. So
yeah, I think Immortals and TSM should be fine, and by that I mean kind of like how we talked about G2, where they have the chance to, you know, get out and make it to quarters and stuff. I think the thing that's going to be really interesting for me, and the thing that makes evaluating this World Championship a lot different from previous years, is the entire existence of a play-in, and the fact that the third seeds have to go to that play-in, because I know, like, TSM against Marines was, I know, like, myself included, I expected TSM to come in and stomp that series in the MSI play-in, and it was actually really close best of 5. So I think that play-in is kind of like, people talk about it as this huge trap. I think preparing for that large amount of teams is always remarkably difficult, especially having followed a lot of these minor regions that have to do it for years. So that'd be like my point of concern, is whoever makes it out of the Gauntlet, they're gonna have a kind of a tough time in the play-in. Not even like, and I'm not shitting on whoever comes out. I'm saying that the play-in itself is going to be really interesting for me, and it is a very difficult thing to prepare for.
All right.
You don't necessarily have to prepare for all of the teams either, right? You can kind of, if you're a third seed, you can kind of watch like the little ones, be like, oh my god, what are we gonna do about this Gambit team? Okay.
What are we gonna do about Frozen?
Yeah, it's good stuff.
All right. By the way, it is live. To answer the Twitch chat question, we are live. I mean, I think.
False.
I guess, Mark, I would say that it's probably a little too early to talk about Worlds and how we'll look. I think Gauntlet, that's going to tell us, you know. If FlyQuest makes it to Worlds, we've got a lot of problems. That's what I'm getting at.
All right. I'm more sketched out, I think. I'm not too hot on the North American region.
Yeah.
I know the finals, like Kelsey was saying.
The thing is, though, like, I feel when you're... It's really hard. We've talked about this so many times on the show. It's always really hard when you're comparing levels across different regions. But I think there are flaws and, you know, opportunity areas for every team that I saw this past weekend. Like, it's not, I don't know. That's what makes me hesitant to be like, NA will have a really tough time, because, like, a lot of the other teams' finals weren't all that great.
And a large part of it, too, is, like, your group draw. Like, you could easily have a relatively easy group, and then you get to group, you know,
I just want to say, I'm being really wishy-washy now, but once I do the VOD review I want to do, I will make a lot of ridiculous, dumb predictions, as usual, like every time, every year. You can meme me later. It'll be super fun.
So the smarter thing to do is, rather than give, like, one prediction that's bold, you make, like, 10 bold predictions, because you're going to have the wrong one no matter what anyways, but if you have a right one, then that's just the one you keep linking.
I mean, do even, like, everything was wrong.
Exactly.
I don't know
Kelsey.
what you just said.
We all agree. We all
but
agree.
Yeah.
So, no. I can be wrong about everything. Just give me a chance. Like, I'll make 10 bold predictions and they'll all be wrong. I don't.
All right, we are going to be answering questions in just a moment. But first off, we have...
And then I'll be relegated to, like, meme status where no one even cares what you say.
We are going to be answering questions in just a moment. And so at Twitch chat, please start spamming with questions. But first, we have Anime Pick of the Week by Emily. And Emily, I just want to say, flew back from Boston this week and saw a film inspired by, I believe, an anime on the plane. Delta Studios was running it. It's called Ghost in the Shell, and I actually thought it was quite good. Really enjoyed it. They had Scarlett Johansson as the main character, and I think
Did you like it because she was in the bodysuit? Is that why you liked it?
No. I actually just thought the visuals were really impressive.
As someone
that is what a lot of people said. I have not seen that movie. Mainly, what I did see, so, like, the Death Note live-action movie was released. I have not seen it, but Mark, you were one of the people that was watching it on my Twitter timeline, because I had this, like, stretch of time where I was traveling for, like, 24 hours straight or something like that, but it only, like, 12 hours passed or whatever because of the time zone change. And anyway, every time I looked at my Twitter timeline, there were people complaining about the Death Note live action. So that was the thing that kind of hit this week, that I feel like the anime so only you among us can comment on its remarkable quality.
Yeah.
You made screeching noises, so.
Yes. I mean, I'm not as big as an anime watcher as you, but I do watch a fair amount. I really like Death Note, the anime, and this movie was a flop on a lot of levels. It's hard for me to, like, separate, like, if you've seen Death Note and if you haven't, because when you call something Death Note and you put the same character in it and you have some of the same scenes and action, of course I'm going to compare it to it. So if someone hasn't seen the anime, maybe it's not the worst, like, an awful movie. I did have some people tell me that they still thought it was awful and they hadn't seen it, so who knows? But the big problem for me is you make a movie called Death Note, you keep the same characters in it. I understand it's to a 30-something episode anime, so you're going to have to cut a lot of shit. That part's all fine. But if you're going to keep the characters in there, just try and make them like they are in the anime, because what made that anime so good was a cat and mouse game between two super smart people, and it's all about those two characters for the most part. And they bring those characters in, and then they just butcher them, and they are nothing like what they are in the anime, and so everything that you love about it is dead and gone. And people just act like idiots, so you no longer feel smart. It's terrible.
So
what is your anime pick of the week,
Emily? Not recommended from Mark. My anime pick of the week is, not so coincidentally, something that became a bit of an animator showcase for up-and-coming animators, but it's also a really interesting show, and it's called Mob Psycho 100. You can watch it on Crunchyroll. It's about Mark is like pumping his fist. Mark, do you want to give the?
No, this is all you. I'm giving my extra stamp.
I don't want to spoil a lot, but like I started off watching this, and one of the lead characters, he actually ended up being my favorite, but he's like super obnoxious at first, and it's basically about these two guys that have like I don't even know how to describe it. They basically deal with like the supernatural, and one of them's a con man, and they have kind of a mentor-student relationship, I guess, but then it also goes into their lives on a psychological level, and it's really interesting. So I recommend it.
It's a comedy, though. If it's worth noting that it's
like, yeah, I should say that.
It's not by the guy who made One Punch Man. So if you've seen that, it's similar in style.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, that's the anime pick of the week. Someday, maybe someone will sponsor that segment of the show.
Buy me undies.
Yeah. MeUndies.com/Travis Gafford. TravisGafford.com/support. Instagram.com/SSLTravis. All right. Questions. There was a pretty good one up here that I wanted to ask, but then like there was some lag and the Twitch chat went crazy. Lucid says, is Emily married? Kappa.
No.
Emily's private life is private. She's not going to answer that question. All right. Where is it? Hang on. We're all holding on. All right. Well, I can't find the person. I'll try to find their name. But they were asking about the Invin article that went up super high on the subreddit about how Korean fans are pissed off at TSM and if that's a real thing and whatever. I was curious if you had any insight into that, Emily, or if that was like the first thing that you had seen from it.
I mean, that was the first thing I saw from it. I am not surprised that it's a thing, because I mean, I follow from kind of a distance K-pop, and the netizen comments for that are very interesting. So I mean, I guess I'm not surprised that it's a thing, and I think people, so like what happened last year is out of TSM's control as far as I know, aside from the comments that Weldon made. So I think that it's right for teams and fans to be upset at some of those comments, but I think as far from what I understand, the scrim leaks were not necessarily their fault. And
I don't think it's the scrim leaks.
Yeah, I think they're more mad about the comments, which is like,
yeah,
that's fair. Attacking TSM is maybe not the best way to go about it, considering that Weldon is now with G2. So if you're mad about the person who made those comments, I guess maybe they're like targeting the wrong thing. But I mean, like the fact that this is even a thing doesn't surprise me, just from what I know of internet culture in Korea. So
yeah. Raven Cost asks, for everyone, is meeting fans and people in public awkward for you?
No. And I was just like, hey guys, yeah, let's take a picture. I don't care. It's never awkward. The only thing is I am not a super social person. So like, if I see you looking at me and I look at you, and like there's that kind of like, I know you know who I am moment, I'm not gonna go over to you and be like, hey, come on down, guy, let me grab that picture. If you come up to me, I'll be like, hey, yeah, it's nice to see you.
Well, it's also very presumptuous to be like, oh, I saw you looking at me, you must know who I am from the internet.
Am I crazy, Travis? You know.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about, where you do this awkward like eye connection thing, and there's a moment of recognition where they're either trying to place you or like the most common thing is eye recognition and then immediately turn to the person on their right and be like, whoa, 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 and you're like, here we go.
That's the move. Is that they see you, their eyes kind of go wide, and they do like a take back thing, and then they kind of look around, and if they have a friend, they'll be like gesturing to you, and it's like, yes, just come up and.
I will say the moments that are awkward. Have you ever had this where people will be standing like 2 feet away from you and be like, "Is that Travis?" Or like, "Dude, I think that's Travis," or whatever, and you're like, I can hear you.
I know I
right
bring
here.
this up a lot when we're talking about this. Like, there was one time in San Francisco where me, Kelsey, Skara, Jeremy were walking back, and someone just pointed at Skara, and they were like, "Is that Skara just walking down the street, like, loud, possibly intoxicated?" But like didn't actually go up to Skara, so Skara didn't really. He was like, "Hey," and like just kept walking, and it was like really awkward.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Is it's only awkward when they make it awkward.
Do that.
Yeah.
If you just come up and you're like, "Hey, I'm a fan. Can you sign this, or can we take a picture?" Never awkward.
Yeah.
My favorite awkward fan moment was in Shanghai when I was helping Travis Gafford buy a sandwich, and this girl walks up to us, and he's like, "Oh, hey, did you want a picture?" And she was like, "Who the fuck are you?"
Wait, when was this? I don't remember. Oh, yeah, the Kelsey, when she recognized you, but she didn't care about me, yes.
She didn't recognize you, and you're like pseudo, like that's one of my favorite stories, actually.
One of my favorite story actually just happened this weekend, where a Freak was doing like some fan interaction stuff, because they had like a fan interaction thing before the matches started or something, and he was out there, and someone asked him, you know, is it ever awkward, like when people come up to you and stuff like that? And Freak says, the only part that's awkward is when the fan doesn't leave you alone because they don't get the hint that it's time to like move on. And the fan kind of like looks at Freak for a moment and then goes wide eye. And it's like, oh God, and like just left. Because he was just like insinuating. And he was just fucking with him. He was fucking with him, so he was quickly like, no, I'm fucking with you. But it was just such a good like way to make that moment as awkward as possible. Like I gotta remember to use that one.
Yeah. Some of my favorite fan moments, like if you ever see, I think most people in esports are this way. If you see them out in the wild, like it's actually really nice, I think, for them to see. Like it can be exhausting when you're at an event and like people keep coming up with you, especially when you need to get work done. But when I'm just out at an event, like I was actually visiting a friend in Sweden a couple years ago, and in a shoe store, and somebody walks up to me and is like, "Hey, are you Travis?" And I'm like, that's a really cool moment. So my favorite moments, by the way, when I get recognized on a date. That's the best.
Oh my God, you fucking airhead! You just, oh yeah, someone did recognize me in front of someone trying to actively impress. Perfect.
Yes, yeah, that's the perfect timing. It's perfect timing.
A really awkward one was I was shoe shopping, and there were a bunch of kids shoe shopping as well, and I think I was with like Pokey and a couple other people, and they recognized all of us, and there was like this moment where it's like, oh hey, yeah, nice to meet you guys, talk for a minute, and then like we're still all shoe shopping.
Oh,
so
yes,
like, it's like still are like not hovering.
Yeah.
They're shoe shopping, but they keep looking. But we're also shoe shopping. It was just so awkward because it's like, of course they're gonna keep looking. I don't know. That was fun.
Yeah. The fucking worst, by the way, is just people see me, and they'll be like, "Where's Doublelift? Hey Travis, nice to see you. Where's Doublelift?" And it'll be like, Doublelift will be on stage playing somewhere, and I'll be like, he's over there. Or like he'll be in boot camping or whatever, and people just expect me. I'll be somewhere else in the world, and I don't know. All right.
I mean, do they actually think the Doublelift likes you that much?
Yeah, I know. If you watch the video, you'll see that he betrayed me. All right, we probably have time for one or two more questions.
You'll know that Doublelift actively betrayed you.
No. Truth LL says, who is Mark's favorite caster for the NALCS?
In terms of how much I like their casting or how much I like the person?
You can pick either one.
In terms of the person I like probably the most, just like talking to, is probably Azael. Isaac. Just he's really funny. He has, like, all of them are really cool, by the way. Like I played D&D for like a while in the airport with like Kobe and Freak and like a bunch of people. It's super fun. They're all really cool, but I don't know, I just like talking to Azael a lot.
Yeah. Trying to find any other question. Exonoki says, will the show ever have a pro player guest like SOTL All Days get someone who didn't make Worlds? That's a possibility. I think it is easier to do that on a show where one of us has to sub out. But I don't know, maybe in the future. It's definitely really hard to do during the split or during the season, but we'll see.
If I get someone to take my place,
no.
Does it still count as me being on the show for like food credit and stuff when we try and use our stamps at the Travis Gafford food collection?
No.
Okay.
No, it does not. That's the show. Emily, do you want to say anything about what's going on in your world as a closeout here? Shout out anything you're working on or whatever.
I have an SKT piece coming out that I like a lot. It's a feature from when I was at the LCK finals. I mentioned the C9 piece that's coming out, and just a bunch of other stuff.
Yep. Mark, how about you?
I'm still kind of busy just because Gauntlet kicks off in 2 days, so got that coming up. I'll try and get a video out. See, I want to do this one video and is like not even about me at all, but I just want to do it because I was talking with Dash and it's funny. And then I also want to put out a piece of content, but I don't know if I have time to do that because I'm also doing offline TV stuff. So we'll see. Follow my Twitter. Any updates will always go there. So follow at the Marksy on the right of me right here, if I can get it
wrong way.
Right.
Wrong way.
Fuck.
Raise your hands up. It's too low. There you go.
Just my hand's disappearing into the light.
Yeah. Well, whatever. Okay. Kelsey, is your internet working? Do you want to give a shout out?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just gonna. I have done a lot of EU stuff. I did the Gauntlet preview. I'm going to be doing updates for every day, like doing an article for every day of the Gauntlet about the team that gets knocked out because I think that's fun. And yeah, I also China stuff. Like, people are actually letting me write China stuff this week. I always send like these pitches, hopefully, to places that I write for. Like, I would like to write this about EU or LCK or maybe NA, and then like I hopefully throw this LPL pitch in there. Like, please pick me, please. And then they never do. They're like, we'll take everything except that one.
Kelsey's all about voices on this episode.
She's been going to some improv classes, you know, gotta work.
Yeah.
I have to be more entertaining if you can't see me, obviously, because since most people come to the show for my beautiful face.
Yeah.
So.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right. I'll stick around on stream for a little bit longer, so don't bail out yet. But I want to give a shout out. I know technically they're not doing the show, but thank you to Mobilytics, by the way, who sent me to Boston and paid for my travel, and also for Broden, for those of you guys that have seen him pop up in my content. His day rate.
Broden is Bay.
So we actually got to make money this trip. That was very nice of them. So thank you to Mobilytics. You can check them out at mobilytics.gg/Travis. It's really helpful for me. TravisGaffer.com/support because I don't make any money from ads because everyone runs AdBlock. But that's about it. I have an interview with Doublelift coming out probably tomorrow. I'll probably push it tomorrow. I did it yesterday. And he talks about winning and what's next for them and all that good stuff. So stick around for the after show, and thanks for watching.
Yay.